On this episode of China Uncensored. Hi, and welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. I never thought these words would cross my lips, but I like Kenny G. He seems like a decent person and not a terrible musician. Earlier this week, Sultan of Smooth Jazz Kenny G made waves when he visited a protest site in Hong Kong. He posed for pictures with fans and tweeted a photo of himself at the protest site, flashing the V sign that means victory or peace, or I'm an Asian person standing in front of a camera. Part of his tweet read, "I wish everyone a peaceful and positive conclusion to the situation." Ah, thanks, G-Man. That means a lot. You see, Kenny G is somehow hugely popular in China, which shows what kind of awful things happen when the Communist Party destroys your traditional culture. Apparently, malls, schools, libraries, gyms, even wedding banquets play the Kenny G song "Going Home" when it's time for people to leave, like it's an instrumental version of Semisonic's "Closing Time." But you forgot about that song. But decades of exposure to "Going Home" means that Chinese people have a Pavlovian response to start packing up and leaving whenever it comes on. In fact, people joke that the Hong Kong government might try playing "Going Home" to disperse the Occupy Central protesters. Because even if tear gas didn't work, Kenny G song might have done the trick. But instead, Kenny G showed up in person, sans sax, which made him the highest profile celebrity to visit the Hong Kong protests. And that, of course, became the big story. At a daily press briefing, a spokesperson for China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs even responded to a reporter's question about Kenny G. To some, all this might seem like an overreaction to Kenny G taking photos at a protest site. I disagree. When it comes to overthrowing authoritarian regimes, never underestimate the power of terrible music from cheesy musicians. Have we all forgotten about how David Hasselhoff single-handedly tore down the Berlin Wall? In 1989, David Hasselhoff released a song called "Looking for Freedom," an English version of a German pop song about a rich young man who wants to make his own way in the world. It spent 8 weeks at #1 in West Germany in the summer of 1989. It spoke to the youth of Germany who were looking for freedom. And then, that November, the Berlin Wall fell. Coincidence? On December 31st, 1989, the Hoff performed "Looking for Freedom" while standing on the ruins of the Berlin Wall in front of 1 million people from the newly unified Germany. If that doesn't bring you to tears, maybe his outfit will. The point is, David Hasselhoff was responsible for the fall of communism in East Germany. Kind of. You can see why China doesn't want Kenny G supporting Hong Kong protesters. And Kenny G is just the beginning. Remember the Canadian band Nickelback? The one everyone on the internet appears to hate? Nickelback is a plot by Western powers to incite violent protests in Hong Kong. I know it's true because I read it in the Global Times. An opinion article in the state-run Global Times breaks down Nickelback's new single, "Edge of Revolution," and the accompanying music video that shows protest scenes from the Arab Spring, Ukraine, Pakistan, and the Occupy Wall Street movement. The song is compared to the 1899 poem "White Man's Burden" and claimed to be, and I'm quoting, "teaching our children to bring about change through violent agitation." Because the kids in the music video start throwing around paper. Look at all that violence! And did the writer just forget who was in favor of violent revolution? I wonder if it's the same guy who said a revolution is not a dinner party or political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. Nah, must be the alternative rock band from Canada. Okay, if I were being generous, I could see how there could be some confusion. The Chinese Communist Party actually has their own pop singer, Ruhan Jia, whose songs are in line with the image of the Chinese government and are about sunshine. So maybe the Global Times doesn't understand that a band is just a band and not a coordinated effort from the entire Western world to undermine China. And if it were, I think we could do a lot better than Nickelback. I may have to like Kenny G now, but I draw the line at Nickelback. Unless they show up at the Umbrella Revolution. Which brings me to my next idea. Sure, the Global Times article is stupid, but let's not forget the David Hasselhoff effect. What would happen if we made a supergroup of popular musicians who are generally despised in the West and sent them to Hong Kong for a giant concert? I'm thinking Kenny G, The Hoff, Nickelback, maybe throw in Train or David Matthews Band. Let's not forget the Eagles, since Hotel California is so beloved in China. And maybe Michael Bolton and Yanni, just for good measure. If David Hasselhoff alone could bring down the Berlin Wall, what could this star-studded lineup do for one country, two systems? Wait, this just in. Kenny G does not support the Hong Kong protesters. In a shocking turn of events, the G-ster deleted his tweet that seemed to show support for the Umbrella Revolution and sent a series of tweets and a Facebook post clarifying that he does not support the demonstrators and that it's unfair for people to interpret his sign for peace as anything but a sign for peace. He doesn't know anything about the protests. He was just innocently walking along and happened to stumble on the protests. And some fans took his picture and then hacked into his Twitter account and posted it along with a message of peace. Anyway, the point is that he loves Hong Kong and China, and he didn't mean to defy the government. You know, if I was a more cynical person, I would say that Kenny G appears to be backpedaling furiously because he was spooked by the Chinese government's response to his visit and doesn't want to get blacklisted from performing in China. I guess he would miss his Chinese big brother. But if you look at his original tweet, it doesn't say outright that he supports the protesters, so I guess it could be a case of Western media just assuming that his tweet of peace and positivity was one of support. Let's give Kenny the benefit of the doubt here. Wait, this just in. An eyewitness claims that Kenny G told the protesters that he did support them, saying, "As an American, we take democracy for granted. You guys hang in there. Hope you guys will win eventually." That sounds like support to me. But in an interview with The Atlantic, Kenny G completely denied having said anything like that to the protesters. Many reacted angrily to Kenny G's statements, but maybe his clarifications will be enough to keep him from getting kicked out of China. I guess in an attempt not to offend anybody, he ended up offending everybody. So it looks like Kenny G is out of the supergroup. But hey, at least that means I don't have to like him anymore. So I guess my supergroup needs a replacement member. Which generally despised musician do you think we should send to Hong Kong? Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Leave your answer below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep looking for freedom.